So in today's video, we are going to be discussing A.J. Brown being traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, before we get into the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and let's jump right into the video. So NFL Night 1 was completely crazy when it came to the trades. There was 9 trades in total between teams, and the first little bit of the draft kind of just went off as normal. Teams were just making their picks. They were just going down the board, and then in the middle of that draft, things just started blowing up and going crazy. Teams were making trades left and right, making massive trades, some trades that we didn't really see, but really teams were just making massive trades and changing the entire trajectory of this entire draft. And it was kind of fun, but it was also kind of insane. It kind of felt like the Wild West out there with all these teams making all these massive moves. And that is no different with the Tennessee Titans trading A.J. Brown to the Philadelphia Eagles. To be honest, I was in kind of shock when I saw this because I didn't really think A.J. Brown would be a guy that the Tennessee Titans would end up moving off of. I thought, what A.J. Brown did for the Tennessee Titans, what he provided to that offense, and how much of a good player he is, and how much help he gives Ryan Tannehill on that offense. I really didn't think that the Tennessee Titans would ever move off of A.J. Brown. I know that he was one of the star wide receivers from that 2019 draft class with Deebo Samuel, who is now just requesting a trade from the 49ers. And then you also have Terry McLaurin. Even with those guys wanting to get paid, they were going to sit out these offseason workouts and all these things, I still thought that Tennessee would find a way to pay A.J. Brown because he's such a valuable piece to that offense. I just never could see a moment where the Tennessee Titans wouldn't have A.J. Brown on their team. I just never thought it would be a possibility. But at the same time, it was likely going to be hard. I know, you have to jump through some hurdles to be able to re-sign a guy, sign a guy to an extension. And because of Ryan Tannehill's contract and the cap situation that the Tennessee Titans were in, it was probably a bit of a difficult situation for the Titans to be able to re-sign and give an extension to A.J. Brown. So it may have been a scenario that wasn't necessarily possible. But at the same time, you have A.J. Brown, who is also seeking a massive payday because this offseason has been absolutely insane when it comes to the wide receiver market. There has been a lot of money given out to wide receivers this year, more money than I think ever before. And wide receiver is a position that's getting valued highly this year, whether it's the draft or obviously offseason, with the amount of wide receivers and how much money has been given out to a lot of these star wide receivers. You first look at Christian Kirk, who kind of started this entire ordeal, this entire offseason move. When he signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars, that was a move that was good by the player. Like, you're never going to complain about a player getting his money, but the Jacksonville Jaguars kind of just changed the entire market for wide receivers because Christian Kirk was more of a wide receiver too in Arizona, but he was getting paid higher dollars by the Jaguars to be considered kind of like a number one guy. So that kind of blew up the market, changed the perplexion, the trajectory of the entire offseason. And then you also have guys like Davante Adams, who when he was traded from the Packers to the Raiders, he got a massive payday. And because of that trade from the Packers to the Raiders, that kind of changed the entire offseason for the Chiefs. And then the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins, who then the Dolphins signed Tyreek Hill to a massive contract. So it's kind of like these ripple effects where, star wide receivers are getting paid more and more money. Top star wide receivers are changing the way that the market is. So it's going to be harder for teams to afford a top tier quarterback, pay them a lot of money, and then pay a wide receiver basically quarterback money, because that's what a lot of these wide receivers are getting. Tyreek Hill, Davante Adams, Christian Kirk got a lot of money. I wouldn't say quarterback style money, but it was a high amount of money for a guy that for his position that, was mainly a 2 in Arizona. But then now that A.J. Brown is traded to the Philadelphia Eagles, once he was traded there, he got his massive payday. He got paid by the Eagles 4 years, $100 million, $57 million guaranteed. So obviously A.J. Brown got that big payday that he was looking for, that he did not get from the Tennessee Titans, but the Eagles did give A.J. Brown that big payday that he wanted, and it's a much-deserved payday. And based off this move, based off this trade, I think personally, just on the surface, I think the Philadelphia Eagles won this trade by a long shot. I don't even think it's necessarily close right now to who won this trade. Now, obviously, you have to let the trade play out. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but you just look at what happened in this year's draft, and you just have to say that, hey, the Eagles won this trade, and it's not really close right now. Because if we look at the details of this trade. So the Titans got in return the 18th pick and the 101st pick. And with the 18th pick, they ended up taking Treylon Burks. Now, he's insanely talented. He has potential to be highly successful in the NFL. And you bring him into Tennessee, who, you know, Mike Vrabel's a really good head coach. And good things could happen with Treylon Burks. And he's getting comparisons to A.J. Brown, of all people, and Deebo Samuel. So you know that Treylon Burks is getting high praise, and he's looked highly upon by teams, and they're expecting him to fill big shoes. Like, I think it's going to be really hard for Treylon Burks to fill shoes like that, but obviously the Titans have big hopes for him, especially because they traded away A.J. Brown for that 18th pick from the Eagles, and then they traded away A.J. Brown and then immediately took a wide receiver, which was honestly expected because you just traded away your best receiver and one of the best receivers in the entire NFL. But just like on paper, like I said, the Eagles won this trade. Treylon Burks is a rookie coming in, obviously never played a snap before, and you're expecting him to kind of match the production of somebody like A.J. Brown. Now, you know, when the football season starts, all of this could be irrelevant, and Treylon Burks is lighting up the NFL, which I'm kind of hoping for because that would be a lot of fun. But you just look right now, you know, the Eagles won this trade by acquiring A.J. Brown because the Eagles are now getting a guy that's already proven to be a great wide receiver in the NFL. In 3 years of playing in the NFL, A.J. Brown has 2 1,000-yard receiving seasons, and he would have had a third if he could have stayed healthy all of last season. So A.J. Brown produced massively for the Tennessee Titans, obviously their top wide receiver, and you're giving him to the Eagles. You're giving Jalen Hurts more help. So the Eagles are making amazing moves. The Eagles made awesome moves in this year's draft. They moved up to number 13 as well, so the Eagles were able to make really good moves in this year's draft, and they were obviously able to get Jalen Hurts more help at the wide receiver position. And then you add him to Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, so that you have a really solid a great receiving core for Jalen Hurts to throw to. This is obviously the Eagles throwing everything at Jalen Hurts, giving him as much ammo as he possibly can to succeed. And I think the Eagles right now are in a really good position to compete in that division that is kind of a weaker division, still one of the weaker divisions in football. And I really do think now that the Eagles could be considered the top favorites in the NFC East. I really do. Like, the Eagles made so many good moves in this year's draft, obviously acquiring A.J. Brown. I think they're in a very good position. They made the playoffs this past season, obviously didn't end well when they played the Buccaneers, but you add in a guy like A.J. Brown who's already proven. That's another reason why they won the trade. The Eagles are able to bring in a proven guy, don't have to draft a wide receiver. Then they get to bring him in along with their wide receiver who was a rookie last year, was a stud last year, and is expecting good things. So realistically, the Eagles have 2 number 1 wide receivers on their roster right now, and along with a tight end that doesn't get talked about, Dallas Goedert, very much. He's a very good tight end, and he just doesn't get talked about very much. But overall, really love the move by the Eagles. I think the Eagles are making great moves, and for the Tennessee Titans, they're going to be a team that's going to have to play very, very tough next year because you have the Colts, who I think are going to be a very good team in their division. But then you also as a whole have the entire AFC, it's an absolutely insane conference right now that I still don't think is a clear favorite in that conference right now. But the Tennessee Titans, they have a tough road ahead of them. But those are my thoughts on A.J. Brown being traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. Give me your thoughts down below on this trade. Who do you think won this trade as of right now, just based off of what we saw in the first round? Give me your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one.